The CGA Tour, a podcast unlike any other. Now, host Calvin Alexander.
Welcome back to the latest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. As always, here I'm your host, Calvin Glenn Alexander. And tonight's episode of the podcast, I'm joined by Josh Karnett, currently the Destination Services Manager of Meetings and Events for Meet Boston with Destination Services. So, Josh, how's it going?
It's been great, Calvin. Thanks so much for having me on the show. I'm listening to it and stuff. Now to be a guest feels surreal, and ultimately, very excited. It's been great. Just transitioning previously in the sport industry, but now at Meet Boston now in my new position, and things are going great so far. Just finished my first week of training here. But a little bit more about myself, I guess, and why I'm here, I guess, and you have me on this show. It's kind of the big thing is we talk about is the sport industry, right? And the leaders in our industry and what makes it work and stuff like that. I was so lucky to have a chance to be a part of all those things. Calvin, we were in Oklahoma City together. You starting off as a TSA and inside sales rep, where we first kind of got our feet wet in the sport industry a little bit, if you will. And really where things blossom is after that first job or first position. And I certainly felt like Oklahoma City was really that catapult that made me say, okay, it kind of helped me start my career, but also kind of helped me take me to where I wanted to be. And bringing me to Boston now. Now I first had been in sports, was working with the Bruins, did stuff with the Red Sox. I was the hospitality group sales manager there with the Red Sox. So kind of going through it, had been working in sports here for 7 years and now landed at a company called Meet Boston. So now I get to do what I've ultimately always wanted to do, which is the hospitality industry, being able to sell my favorite city, Boston, Beantown, right? Doesn't get better. The clam chowder, the lobster rolls, anything that we can offer here for anybody that comes from out of town, we like to showcase that. So my main focus that I deal with now is our two convention centers, Heinz Convention Center and the BCEC. Those abbreviations stand for the Boston Convention and Exhibit Center, which a lot of groups will use. And not to get too much into New England terms, but one is located in Seaport, the other in Back Bay, closer kind of into more the heart of the city. But great spots where companies come every single year, doctors, associations, you name it. But not only that, I'd like to say that we don't only do conventions and we don't limit ourselves to just that. You ever heard of the Army-Navy football game? We got a hand in that. You ever heard of the FIFA World Cup? We got a hand in that too. So I still do work in sports, maybe just not sports directly. So yeah, Calvin, it's, other than that, I think.
Gotcha. Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say here, I think one of the unique things I know about you is that you're not from Oklahoma, but, we met in Oklahoma City working for the Thunder, right? And then, my first job outside of, college, right? First job out of college was also not where I'm from. Inside sales rep as well, in San Diego, where I was very familiar with because I had family who lived out there and was able to live with them while working for the Padres. But wanted to ask you more kind of a little bit about the Thunder job here. Like what, one, how did you think you got the job? Like what made you stand out as a qualified candidate there to not just move away from where you're from, but also, to go through that whole deal of, starting inside sales, learning a whole new city, and then working for the Thunder well enough where you, of course, got promoted within the organization and then, kind of brought you back to Boston at some point with the Bruins.
That's a fantastic question. And I think I start off with, I guess everybody always wonders how they got the job. You think back to everything you're told in college, to having a great resume, having a solid cover letter. And all that is important, no doubt. But none of it matters if you can't be good in the interview, be true to yourself, and show that company, in this case the Thunder, exactly the type of person, or better yet, the type of human being that they're getting, right? You sell yourself in those moments. And I had the opportunity to interview, while scary, with an entire staff that they did there, almost like 4 or 5 managers all at once. And it was a virtual interview when I was in New York City. But what I think helped land me the job was how confident I went into it. And it's not to meant, and I think there needs to be a definition of a difference between being confident and this almost of cockiness, if you will, that everybody likes to label as you're being cocky. It's okay to be cocky, I think, but to do it in a managed way. And I think that's what I don't want to say perfected because nobody is perfect, but almost think I've mastered that craft to saying I found a way and that balance, because that balance, if you can find that balance, that is ultimately what led to the true success. And I think, and I might be wrong, but I think that is also when position opened up. As you mentioned, I did get promoted, was lucky enough to be fortunate enough for that. Within 5 months and being promoted to an account executive, it doesn't happen a lot. It's a rare opportunity. But I went in there as in I was the only one that was qualified for the job. And that can be tough when you're competing against coworkers that are sitting next to you, right? You've been a part of the internal promotions as well. And those things can be bad before, during, and after. And it's how you handle yourself during those situations while you're in that position and even after you leave that position that ultimately everybody's going to remember. And nothing makes me feel better than the text I received, my old boss, Justin, yesterday, and told me that people still ask about me in Oklahoma City, right? People still say, how's Josh doing? Well, then at least I made my mark somewhere, right? That at least that positive impact was left. And they always say, don't burn a bridge. Well, that should be the perfect example why you should never burn a bridge. It's like you never know when you can go back. You just never know what course life can take. And I do ultimately think finding that balance, though, again, bringing it back to being cocky and confident in the middle almost, gives you that self-confidence to bring you to almost another level. Now, I'd like to make sure that all the viewers out there, I was not always there, right? I think it took schooling. I went to grad school, and I think grad school is ultimately what did it. I think college and undergrads do a great job of letting us know what the work world's about to be like. Grad schools and other elevated educational programs have a way of telling you how it's going to work, if that makes any kind of sense. If it was what it will be like and how it's going to work. And I think a lot of employers these days want people to enter knowing how things are going to work. They don't want to have to teach somebody that people are mean to people in ticket sales. We know that, right? Like we don't, like when I got here to Boston, I knew exactly what to expect. Now, somebody that might jump on the phones and coming from Oklahoma City the first time to Boston, never been before, well, good luck with the Boston sports fan, is all I'll say. But we know that Boston people we're a different breed, and that's New England, and it's just how things work out here. But I'd also challenge people to know that's the sports world, that you have to have a tough shell to be able to just flip over the next day, and it's a new page and a new day. It's not always easy, but something I really wanted to master as I did it. So, yep, that cocky, confident balance is what I always go back to.
Yeah, one of the things that I always talk about with like college juniors and seniors when it's talking about working in ticket sales is, yeah, there's a reason why you're making 100 calls a day. Like there's a reason why that's the inside sales deal is making 100 calls a day. It's because you're going to be able to make 100 calls in a day. If you got connected every single time, you had a great conversation with somebody, then you're probably only making like 25 to 30 calls a day. But you're going to be able to, you're going to have people say, how did you get this number? You're going to have all these questions here back and forth that are going to go, oh, what's going on here? Like, how is this working? And I always try to tell anyone in college, like, that's part of the job. That's part of any sales job, period, too. So it's not like, oh, by working for a sports team, I'm going to have somebody who's passionate about, whatever it is. But you do run into it where you can have someone who's passionate about, hey, why the heck did Kevin Durant not re-sign with the Thunder? Hey, why the heck did Russell Westbrook, miss some free throws or, not be able to get with Paul George all the way far enough in the playoffs, right? Or, bring it back to me of, why the heck did you guys sign Manny Machado instead of Bryce Harper, right? And I'm like, I'm like an entry-level sports ticket sales guy who's making the dials and bringing them up. I don't have those answers. I definitely have the phrasing to answer those questions the way I need to for management. But that's part of it. And I'd much rather go, I'd rather talk with you because now I know at least you care so much about the team and you're interested into it. Even though at start, when I started my career, I'd be going, oh, okay, I'll just call somebody else. Like immediately almost admit defeat, first couple calls in with that. Cause I'm like, oh, well, they already have such a strong opinion that they hate us and they don't want to, don't want to buy tickets, etc. When in turn, it's like, it took me a little bit, but it's, I think it's what everyone goes through of, oh no, these are the most passionate fans we have and may end up buying the best season tickets in the house because they care so much and they want to be that close to the court or to the field to yell at those players and let them know what they're doing wrong too. You never know, right?
No, Calvin, I think you just hit it. You said it perfectly, right? Those passionate is lying under there. Is that word is passionate you're looking for, right? And it's that passion that ultimately causes them to do things like that, get so upset, right? To me, when I was, and I think the passion really came out when I was working in Boston. I was a part of the 2019-2020 TD Garden changeover. And if you haven't heard about it, then just Google something TD Garden leg room and you'll know all there is need to know. But as just to the viewers out there, the Garden underwent major renovations in 2019, 2020, taking out all their old yellow seats, if you will, and replacing them with some black leather, updated, modernized seats, really just wanting to upgrade. It was not the perfect upgrade by any means. So dealing with a lot of customer complaints, people that have had the same seats for 30 plus years being moved, right? These are things that, again, right, you said it perfectly, out of our control. We're entry-level people. At the very least, I'm getting copied, right, with emails with the president of the team. And these are just because that's who people know, right? That's the type of people that we're dealing with. And I'm with you. I'm like, hey, they could be mad at me. I've had people hate my guts. And then when it's all said and done, I find out that they love me on my review, right? They might say something to you on the phone, but they don't actually always mean that. I think that's something that you kind of nailed on the head, right? With the talking about the trades and stuff like that. It's like, I don't know what this guy's talking about. That's kind of what I do, right? I don't necessarily tune it out, but hey, I'm with you. Like, I'd be upset too, right? Like if Kevin Durant told us that he was coming back, he didn't. Like, I get you. Yeah, I get you. Almost not agreeing with them, but being like kind of resonating with them, right? Like being their support system, if you will, and being like, yeah, we're on the same team here, kind of thing. And once they feel you're kind of their teammate, everything else just becomes natural conversation. I think the sales kind of goes out the window, right? You guys aren't friends, but you've at least found common ground to be something to be upset about, right? And I think it's even better to have common ground to be upset about something than to not talk to that person at all. As crazy as that might sound.
Yeah, for me, those were always the people that I wanted to get in the building the biggest. I was like, hey, you know what? Since you're so passionate about this, and passion in the sports term, like, it was my one-on-one yesterday, and was like, hey, be careful by using that word too much from talking about sports because that's what everyone says. But I do really know that if you're that engaged, I'll use that word instead and switch it up a little bit. If you're that engaged in the team and you know exactly what's going on all the way until like not just big trades, but like how games are going, then I want you to come in the building so we can talk about this one-on-one and just kind of, go through, hash it out. And you can see these seats in person. You can see what the experience looks like. You can see how close to be down to the field or court or whatever or arena, whatever may be, and really like get a good vibe of what's going on. Because then I know if you're actually just, you know what, you've got the 7-inch TV, you'd rather watch it on your couch because you're going to yell some profanities. And if you're in the arena, you might get kicked out. Or if you're willing to buy season tickets and go, yeah, this does sound like this would be the greatest thing ever if I was able to take my family out and really show them how excited I am of every single game and, really spread that energy and excitement with the whole family too, or with the friends or whoever may be coming out to games as well. Also want to ask you here though, Josh, is about so your move from you were with Boston Bruins for 3 years and basically almost 4 here, 3 years, 10 months. Then you went to go work for the Red Sox. How did you go about, hey, I'm looking for a promotion, looking to move, not cities, but am looking to move upwards in my sports sales career. How did you know when it was kind of the right time to look for a managerial position? And, what kind of made you think, what, I think I'm ready for the next steps here?
No, it's a terrific question. I think we all have goals in careers and stuff. One of my goals was to always be a manager before I was the age of 35. COVID, I thought, was really going to get in the way of that. And it almost did, but was lucky enough to be staying along with the Bruins during COVID. We were one of the only departments that actually stayed on kind of full time there. Being able to help season ticket holders, tell them there might be a season still, even though everything else in the city is being shut down. I don't have to get too much into that because anybody in the sport industry knows how tough that time was. But really, after everything had kind of gone back almost quote unquote to normal here, we were back to full capacity. I had been spent. I was to a point where I was just kind of drowning a little bit underwater in terms of like workload. And I didn't know if I could keep up personally in terms of just everything that was happening. So I said, I've been doing this 4 or 5 years. And I've almost felt that, again, we go back to, I'm a big tying into things, right? Mastering the craft. Mastering the craft is what I had felt I'd done with the job. There's nobody that says you have to leave a job ever if you're comfortable, you like what you're doing, right? But there's other people that want to challenge themselves. And I'm one of those people that I wanted to see what else I could continue doing. I would have loved to do that with the Bruins and the Celtics. There, unfortunately, was just not a position available. So what I did see was a position available with the Red Sox, the hospitality group sales manager position, my most recent one. One that had been just open there in the posting. And Major League Baseball, something I had never worked in before. I had touched almost every single sports league, even the internships that worked with Major League Soccer, which is just, that's another thing we'll have to touch on at the end, because what Major League Soccer has become is just terrific. And right now, in terms of joining back to Major League Baseball, being a part of a team and a brand like the Red Sox is not something anybody growing up in Boston, especially myself, was going to just turn a shy eye at. You work in sports, the Red Sox, like this is what you work for, right? This is what you try to get to. And even when I was with the Bruins, there were ways I was like, always had to the back of the mind, it might be cool to work for them someday. And the position was wonderful. I absolutely loved every single second of it. I had wonderful managers. I had wonderful leadership everywhere across the board. They had just great, everything they have going on there at Fenway that I was able to be a part of. You talk about even the other events they have, the Winter Classics, the concerts, right? You want to see Bad Bunny, you want to see Pink fly through Fenway, come to Boston, right? This is not just a place where people come to sporting events. This is a concert destination city for a lot of people. We have Morgan Wallen playing 3 shows, right? Morgan Wallen's going all over tour here and stuff, but people never been to Fenway Park. People never done that before. It gave them a reason to come. And so that was the big draw for me. Not to ramble on here, but really being able to sell Fenway Park and being able to sell that kind of venue. It was just kind of like nothing I could look at or say, no, I'm not doing that. So I applied. Things went well. I got the job. Stayed on a little over a year. I have noticed, I would say that in terms of myself, I think it was more of a personal decision that, as I kind of mentioned, I think when athletes go and they're playing a career, right, 18, 20 years, they're playing basketball, same sport, you go through this routine. You go through just your everyday things, right? It's almost like an off season. You have to like train yourself and your body and everything to get used to that again. And I am getting over that. I'm getting closer to that 35 hump there. So I'm now 32, but we're getting up there. Just got a house in North Reading. And, thinking about things like growing a family and doing stuff like that and having the conversation with myself, if I could really see myself having a family doing those things. Now, there are people that can do that. And there are people that do it every day. And they're amazing. And I don't know how they do it. But I was worried about the possibilities of sports and its current state of how busy it is. And just based on not that, I think going through a season or two of baseball and doing that stuff kind of made me realize that this might not have been the best fit, that maybe this was not exactly something that I should have done. But I am big on not having regrets on anything, right? It could have been a job I shouldn't have taken. It could have been something that didn't go well. But I'm not like that. I'm thankful for every experience that I get. And I'm so thankful for that experience because that makes you tough as nails there, because that place, there's a lot of things, right? It's Fenway Park. It doesn't have a lot of things that other ballparks do, but man, we love it. And we are going to tell you why we love it. And I was so just grateful to be a part of an experience like that for a little over 12 months.
Yeah, I remember seeing you in Fenway, reconnecting last was I think September,
Yep.
and saying hi when I was out visiting a buddy in Boston as well, and seeing Fenway for the first time. And I was like, man, I get it. Like this is an experience to have at a ball game. This is truly one of those things where I've been to Petco Park, which so today almost always ranks as like one of the top 3 ballparks in the nation, if not the top 1, and worked for the Padres, so I've been there plenty of times. And I've seen a lot of all of their ballparks in the nation, but I always like, you know what, I want to see Fenway because it's Green Monster and just everything that Fenway is, everything that Boston is. It's and just really see the stadium. Like, it's iconic, it's historic, got to see it. And then I got it, and I was like, you know what, maybe I should have worn the Red Sox hat for this podcast, but I was like, you know what, I'm fully bought in. Like, I get it. This is going to a game, September night, beautiful outside. It was just cold enough to wear a jacket or a hoodie, hanging out. And I was like, you know what, this is the time. Like, this is a great memory I had. Now, of course, the next day, like, gotta admit, I was walking a lot in Boston, more than I was used to. It's not as it wasn't as car friendly as I thought it would be. But then again, I think it's part of the Northeast cities that I'm not as familiar with. I'm from Oklahoma or California, and definitely used to using more of the 405 or living in the 405. So it's a great deal there as well too. Want to go back here a little bit and ask you, now you've worked, you worked in sports for 5+ years, even before then when you were in college. And now you're doing what you're doing as well today. But I want to ask you, what's your biggest piece of advice for like college juniors and seniors? Part of what I do is I mentor Oklahoma State students in my, I say free time, but every semester I try to mentor 2 or 3, but always trying to give them advice and learn from those who have a ton of experience in the sports industry. What's your biggest piece of advice for them?
Biggest piece of advice is always, always, always take advantage of every opportunity you get, and even the unpopular ones. And you're like, gosh, I've heard this before. What does this guy mean by it? I mean that, like, if you get an internship that's rolling up the United States flag on the Oklahoma City Thunder basketball court, you do it. If you have an opportunity to take a security job somewhere and stuff like that, even though you might want to get in the sport industry, what do you got? What do you have to lose right now as a student? The opportunity to make money, opportunity to maybe have Sam Presti walk by you sometimes. I mean, these are just things I'm thinking out loud that happen in arenas and things like that. But my biggest piece of advice is do not close any doors, right? Do not say I'm too good for this, or this is beneath me, or I don't know if I'm qualified for that. Let somebody else tell you that. Let somebody else tell you that you don't belong somewhere. Always stick your head out and always say that you belong, and you'll be fine. So, yeah. And then adding to that,
I think that's a well said.
Yep.
Go ahead, though.
No, I was going to say, adding to that, really, I think ultimately it's just it's trying a lot of new things, but also just saying, I'm not going to say, no, I'm not going to be a 50-50 raffle person because I want to be a account executive ticket sales, right? Well, I know people at the Red Sox that started right as a grounds crew member, and they worked their way up to be into ticket sales right now as an inside sales rep. And so you just don't know what can happen in that path, the journey. So take every class you can, every professor that you could talk to them. It's 4 years is way too short. I wish I had 40 in college because it was such an invaluable experience, but it really is kind of, and I know it sounds cliche, but take advantage of every opportunity. That means when you're in Calvin's class, right? Ask every question you can, right? No questions are bad questions. And I would kill to have like a mentor or somebody like you, right? That has had those kinds of experiences. So continue to talk to those professors and pick their brains because they're there to help you, right? You remind yourself at the end of the day, they're there to teach students. That is their full-time thing, is to give back and show and grow the younger, the better of tomorrow. So ask away.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly well put, because one of the things that I've learned through working in sports is that almost every single person you talk to or encounter or, pass by and rub shoulders, bump shoulders, excuse me, they have done what you think is below you. Like if you think for a second, oh, I'm, me rolling out the tarp, well, probably the manager of ticket sales for an entire team or league or whatever has worked for a minor league team where that was them at your age. I mean, that was what they were doing. They've worked. My mentor for the Padres, when I was out there, he initially got his start in sports sales career being a 50-50 raffle ticket seller. And now he's, I'm one of the managers in premium there for the Padres. And he's younger than I am. So I can go to show you that it's crazy how everything comes back around, but you're never, like you said, I think that's great advice. You're never too good for anything. Nothing's really ever below you, and take advantage of every opportunity that's out there, because at some point or another, every person you meet in the sports world has done something like that. They've been running around the rafters of Galgaribe Arena dropping T-shirts, and then the next week they end up being able to be the DJ and stand behind the booth and control the audio, for men's basketball game, or be on the court doing all the announcing. So never really know, but I think it's a great piece of advice for sure. Next one I'll ask you about, though, and always asking everyone here, it's like, what's your best story from working in sports? Favorite game to work, story, being interacting with the fan, player, coach, etc., or even if you have a couple, go for it.
I think that one's easy. And the only reason I say this is because these things never happen, right? Like, so 2019, I could remember it was yesterday almost. So this is 2019, or were you going to? Yeah, 2019. So the year we went to the Cup. This was in January of that year. So this is the regular season. This was the game on January 4th, Saturday afternoon matinee game, playing the Edmonton Oilers, Connor McDavid. Our matinee games of the Bruins are always big. Everybody wants to come. Kids, right? That's the only time they can really come to those type of games. So the other ones are at 7 o'clock at night. So those are big sellers here in Boston, those matinee hockey games. So I'm working at my post where I used to work, which is Legends, a lounge, just welcoming in the members we normally welcome in. And we normally let a lot of the media staff and people that are like VIP, if you will, come through there. So I'm being professional and everything, right? And everybody's coming through there. And in walks Wayne Gretzky. And I just am absolutely floored, right? Like, this is Wayne freaking Gretzky that is walking right past me. And I dropped my professionalism in that moment and I took a picture. Do not take any advice from me on doing that at anybody out there, but I had to almost do it because that's almost an iconic moment, right? That's probably the greatest hockey player that's still ever lived. Connor McDavid's definitely given a run for his money, but I still think there will never, ever be another Wayne Gretzky. I think it's one of those things in sports, honestly, like, we say that there might not ever be another Michael Jordan. Well, we're getting a couple guys right now, right, that really are making a good run for it. But Wayne Gretzky, man, I don't know if there will be another. What was so unique about it, a lot of people that don't watch hockey, so unique about him, is that he was a center, but he was a lefty. A lot of centers, if you'll see him watching, those who watch hockey, they're not lefties. And there's a lot of different reasons that is, mostly because face-offs are more difficult for them. Also because shooting could be more difficult from some of the positions, harder to get their shot off. But what was so unique about Wayne Gretzky was just his ability to just play the game of hockey in so many different ways and how easy he made it look. So I was able to take a picture with him, just let him know how I felt about him and stuff like that. And he said, "I'm glad you're such a fan. You couldn't have been nicer." So my message to all of you, if you're ever within a 150-foot distance or yard distance of Wayne Gretzky, make it a point to go see the guy, talk to him. It could not have been nicer, could not have been a better person, but that connection happened because he did some media, he does some media stuff with the Edmonton Oilers, his former team, but just what a terrific guy. And that's my cool sports story. We're not even going to get in, you thought it was probably going to be the 2019 Stanley Cup Finals, but we don't talk about that here in Boston. So, yeah.
That's fair enough. I mean, I'm not talking about the, any of the Thunder's playoff success.
2016, our first year.
Either. Yeah. I'm unfortunately talking about that one, but fond memories because that's as far as Thunder have ever made it, not necessarily because it was a bad deal. But also want to ask you too here, what's your favorite part of your current job here now with Meet Boston versus kind of working in a stadium and arena setting?
No, it's a very good question. These questions are fantastic, man. Making me think on my toes. But I think in that essence, my favorite part about what I do now is how much more I'm able to get outside of my stadium arena. Fenway, right? We're there when we're working for our sports teams. We're selling that venue. We're maybe going to different businesses to sell that venue, but we're selling that venue. Now I have the opportunity to sell an entire city, and that's my favorite part of my new job is being able to sell the city, being able to sell the historical parts of it, being able to sell the sports parts of it, being able to sell the food parts of it, right? Every aspect of this city has something different. There's so much culture in Boston. There's so much that this city offers. Everybody wants to come to Boston, right? Everybody that has ever dreamed of having a New England wedding is starting, right? They get engaged. They're starting to make those plans. There's such a different thing to do in Boston each and every day that making a 2 or 3 day trip will not be enough. And I know I'm probably a little biased in saying that, but I do mean that. You could spend 2 days just doing the Tea Party Ship Museum or walking along the Freedom Trail or seeing, which was one of my favorite things, is the kind of the reenactments they do here of the revolutionary stuff and some of the wars. It's very impressive and some of the things that we have going on here. So if anybody out there has not been to Boston, this is absolutely my time to say, come to Boston. There's something here for everyone. We realize that we are definitely a little expensive, but we would love for you to visit because we do feel that there's activities for everybody. Boston Harbor cruises, right? Sunset cruises, but it just can't be beat. There's so many things here. Getting 4 seasons is a big reason of why I moved here. Unfortunately, Oklahoma, as you know, that's not a thing, and other places it's not a thing either. But having a true fall here and being able to really see, the water again on a daily basis, I think is my favorite part of my job.
Well, I want to ask you then, since you mentioned the Oklahoma weather, what seasons do you think Oklahoma is missing out on or doesn't have enough of?
Seasons they don't have enough of are spring, because I don't feel there's really a spring. And when I was living there, I'd feel like it would be the winters are kind of a little rainy. Sometimes you might get snow here and there, but for the most part, rainy and just cold and dark, and you don't really see sun. And then I don't really feel there's a spring. I think it just gets really hot right away, which I'm okay with. I'm more of the heat's fine with me. Like, you're going to be 90, go up to 100. That's fine. I know those people in Texas, Oklahoma City right now. My gosh, my condolences to everybody down there and what you guys are going through with this heat wave. And, I think personally that I missed out on having a good spring. And I can actually now, I think I'm realizing it's owning a home, plant flowers in the garden. So I think spring is and I could be wrong now. I'm not living there anymore, but I might be wrong. I didn't see a spring when I was there. But now you guys are at 110 degrees, so I'm.
Yeah, Oklahoma. I think I've always said it's the big extremes where like you have a couple of weeks where you have a spring, you have a couple of weeks where you have a fall, but it's the big deal on the extremes, one or the other. The one thing I know for sure that we don't have that I, as someone from Oklahoma, was not aware of is that I thought we had like a winter. Then I moved to Detroit, worked for the Pistons, and I quickly learned that we do not have a winter at all, especially when and I think I've said this in like several different podcasts now, but not in a while, is that I got a text from, like everyone, like the first couple days of work, and this is in like October, maybe November when I was working for the Pistons, and said, hey guys, we'll have a, 15, 20-minute late start because of the snow. See you guys soon. And I was like, and I replied to the group and I said, oh, we're not working from home. It's like, I couldn't get my car out of the parking lot. And quickly everyone replies like, you're funny. Cause I just moved there from San Diego, California. And, you're funny, Californian and whatever. And then one guy called me up and he goes, you're not kidding, are you? And I was like, no, dude, like I don't own like a serious pair of boots. Like I have like winter shoes that are, rain protectant, but I don't have like a huge parka or something. Like, what do you mean? It's below 32 degrees by good far and away. It's like in the 20s. How are we supposed to get to work? And he goes, your car can't get out of the parking lot? And I was like, no. And he goes, how many other people are driving the same car as you? I was like, no one in the parking lot. I don't see another rear wheel drive sedan. And he's like, that's why. All right. Well, and then he gave me a ride to work. We got cat litter on the ride back home and make sure I got some weight over those back tires. But I know in Oklahoma, that's a long way of saying I was not used to a Northeast or really a Northern winter whatsoever. So it's
That's
one of the
even
things I don't miss about Detroit is that amount of
yeah, the Midwest, Calvin. I mean, that's different than even the Northeast. I think that's something you gotta kind of tell yourself, right? Detroit, even then we'll get to the Great Lakes. That's a whole different ballgame of snow than what we experience, right? You're getting the lake effect. You're getting a lot of different things that I don't even see. What I would say now, I can't speak to anything in Detroit really, but they do a terrific job of plowing the roads here and really making sure everybody can get to work and things like that. I don't know if it's the same case in every city or what that's like, but really around New England, they know what to expect. The energy, electricity companies, right? They're ready for anything. But trust me, I know what you mean. I think if anybody that hasn't been a part of those winters just gets thrown right into it and stuff like that, it's definitely an eye-opening thing. I think you're terrific for doing that because I think now you're ready for anything, right? Like you move somewhere someday, you'll be ready and prepared and maybe a 4-wheel drive in the future, but that's
yeah, the car definitely has 4-wheel or all-wheel drive now going forward, just in case I end up moving again. But also for for Oklahoma or Alabama winters, like never know what you need to expect here. So it always seems like it could be one of the extremes. Definitely the ice. The ice is not something that I look forward to ever. Going back to our earlier discussion though, when you worked for the MLS and then now, of course, the MLS they're doing with Inter Miami FC, Lionel Messi. Want to go back to that a little bit here and talk to you more. What do you think about working the MLS when you were with the MLS, and how do you think it's going today too?
That's really, I'm glad we could talk about the career stuff because I wanted to talk about that internship and what I got exposure to. I did operations there, so I did almost everything that would happen pregame ceremony wise, leading up to the game, and then post game if they did anything. This was the time when Major League Soccer was trying to grow, really. If you recall, NYCFC had become an expansion team playing in Yankee Stadium. The big draw was signing David Villa at first from Spain. Second up was Andre Pirlo from Italy. This was that attempt almost, before we got here, almost 5-6 years later with Lionel Messi, even, 7, 8, it's more than that, almost 10 years, the Lionel Messi. We're coming to a spot where I look back and I say, NYCFC kind of started that, right? And they said they're going to make every attempt to kind of they're going to get those international guys to sell their team and they're going to build around it. And I think that not a lot of Major League Soccer teams copied that model. I mean, we saw in LA, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, they tried that and he did great there. I thought it was nothing short of spectacular, but I do think he is on the much older side and was obviously limited in what he could do. Nothing like with what we're seeing with Messi. But my favorite part about that was seeing how much Major League Soccer just blew up in Yankee Stadium. You had all these Yankee Stadiums absolutely packed, and it's David Villa and Andre Pirlo. Mind you, the guys are decent soccer players at this time. They're towards the end of their careers, but they're packing Yankee Stadium for Major League Soccer. And I thought if they could do this right now, that this, maybe this league could have potential. And it was around the time, if you recall, that was kind of a time when things weren't going so great. And it was great to have an expansion team. And I think that's what really helped these other expansion teams to, I mean, look where we are right now, right? We just had one, they added one in Nashville. I think they are about to add another one in Vegas, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe not Vegas, another location, or San Diego, excuse me. That's correct. San Diego is getting a Major League Soccer team. So, and really in terms of hindsight, the way that they're growing right now is tremendous. And I think when you have a guy like Messi steering the ship, right? You have an international guy like that saying Major League Soccer is almost there and they're very close to the Europa Leagues. The only hope I can have is that somebody out there in international soccer, I'm looking at you, Neymar. I'm looking at you, all those guys, Ronaldo. I understand their want to go to Saudi Arabia. How could you fault anybody, right, for wanting a contract with all the things Neymar's got? His private plane, the benefits he has for just posting on social media. And what a great way to try to grow your league by using some things at your disposal. I have to give credit to Saudi Arabia for doing things that are unique and different. And hey, not every country has that kind of money, but if they feel that it's right to do these kinds of things to grow their soccer league because it's good for their economy, then every soccer in a league could maybe learn from them something. And I think there's something to learn from everybody in this. So I think what Major League Soccer's, kind of rambling on, Major League Soccer's done a great job is actually taking these pages out of other people's playbook that have done it before. NYCFC, right? You're seeing these other expansion teams come in, right? In other sports like Las Vegas and hockey, there's people that are copying that carbon footprint, and it's working. And it's working. It's resulting in teams like the Seattle Kraken in hockey, almost, making the Stanley Cup final. These are things that are just getting to a point where it's like, it's very impressive to see how quickly not only the success these expansion teams are having with the support, but how good they get in terms of competition.
Wait, I'm a huge NBA guy, huge basketball guy. So got to ask you on the expansion stuff here. What do you think the next 2 cities are that the NBA expands to?
I think Vegas is the obvious one, right? I think just for the fact that you see, I watched some WNBA too. So seeing what the Las Vegas Aces, are a very popular sports team across the board right now, right? Like not even just WNBA, but across the board. So I'm thinking that kind of support, if that team's getting it, it almost would make sense to also add an NBA team in Las Vegas. I personally, and I think I could be, crazy for saying this, I think that Texas has room for another team, maybe. Now, who knows? That Texas might add another team in Austin. Wouldn't put it past it. Too close to San Antonio and taking away the Spurs fans, I don't know. But Austin's an up-and-coming city, just added a Major League Soccer team, and they got a venue for it there. You just never know, and I think they're growing so fast that I think Texas has the size to do it. They definitely have room for another pro sports team, I think, in Austin. Austin is number 2 on my list.
All right. Well, Austin's not one I was thinking of. I've heard a lot of Seattle, right? Like, Seattle, such a big, such a huge city. A bunch of people were moving there during COVID as well. And they have a hockey arena. It's brand new, that Climate Pledge Arena, right? So they could probably figure out a way to fit basketball in. I know that's what, in Detroit, I know that's what they do in several other cities, that hockey and basketball's in the same arena. So, I got to think Seattle at some point, of course, as long as the Thunder stay in Oklahoma City, I'm happy with that. Start a new rivalry, have Seattle versus Oklahoma City in the Western Conference, good rivalry there every single year. Be a good deal, I think, in my opinion. The other couple questions I have for people, really, whoever joined the podcast here, are regarding, like, sports. You mentioned it here, like you chose, you know what, working sports a while, but I do want more of that, like, family life dynamic. Kind of going away from, like, working 80 plus home games a year, working for, an MLB team. And no really matter really what team you work for, you're working a ton of hours, you're working a ton of events, in the off season, etc. It's never really a conventional, like, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And that's usually one of the downsides in sports, if there are any, of working in sports, really. But how did you manage, good work-life balance?
I think what I had to do is I woke up early. I wake up early every single day. Everybody's got a routine, but I'm very routine oriented. I get in my routine and I stick to it. And it helps me in terms of having good energy, good mental state, everything you want to have when you walk into the office, and have that energy right at 7 or 8 o'clock at night when you still have the game. A lot of people don't know this. So I just want to make it out there for the non-sports industry people out there. These sports industry people actually go to work that day. They take calls. They do everything during the day, and then they go to the game at night. So those days, like Calvin just said, you're getting to the office at 7, 8 a.m., might not be leaving until 9, 10 o'clock at night, right? 12, 13 hours and things like that. I keep fresh. 1, drink water, but 2, routine. You got to have a routine. Whatever works for you, it's great. Keep yourself in a routine, right? Just like an athlete, kind of stick to it. Because if you don't find a routine in a long season, and you take different routes to work, driving and things like that, it will get stressful. I promise.
Gotcha, for sure. Yeah, I think for me, if I'm asking myself that question too, it's much more of carving out time. right? Like no matter what, no matter how, you're going to carve out like those hours you owe yourself. Probably won't be able to get, that kind of like, all right, I need 30 minutes to an hour today to decompress. Probably not going to get that on a game day, but you need to carve that out during the week, no matter what, to find a way, find some time, whether it be waking up early, whether it be just making sure your mental health is good and eating right, drinking lots of water, being active, or just finding a good outlet for frustration. So, right now I try to play basketball as much as possible, try to let out that frustration on the court. And when I miss 7 shots, I can be mad at myself about that. But then I'll make that one and go 1 for 8 on the night, be overjoyed about that and be able to hang my head high as I go to sleep. So, not a bad deal there. Well, Josh, thanks so much for joining here on the latest episode of the CGA Tour podcast. Any other parting notes, words of advice, and good things like that here?
No, just good luck to everybody that's out there. I'm happy to be a resource, Calvin. They want to talk to me, you put them in touch with me. Thank you.
Will do. Well, Josh, thanks so much. I'm going to make sure to tag you in all postings across social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. And so please go ahead and follow Josh, stay connected with him, and get more of his advice here going forward. Please follow at the CGA Tour for more news, info, and notes on the podcast on Instagram and Twitter. And we'll catch you guys again soon.